Am I wrong for eating my husband's entire birthday cake by myself? I'll preface this by saying that my husband's family and I don't get along. Like, at all. We're rarely ever on good terms, and for my mental health, I decided to put distance between us. Especially after I was blamed for my most recent miscarriage that happened 3 months ago. My husband can still see them and visit them whenever he wants. For me, I don't attend any of their events, not even Thanksgiving nor Christmas. My husband's 30th birthday was 2 days ago. I planned to celebrate with him. I bought a cake and a gift, but he said that his family invited him to celebrate his birthday and he really wanted to go because the birthday parties his family throw are like no others. We had an argument over this, but he told me to wait for him till he finished celebrating there with his family, then we could celebrate together at home and eat a cake. After he left, I felt so terrible. I called him, but he turned his phone off. I was so mad, I took the cake and brought it into the living room and started eating from it. I ate the whole thing, not saving him a single piece. Guess I was so angry and it made me hungry. He came home and saw what I did and blew up saying I did this to be spiteful and to punish him for not ditching his family on his birthday like I wanted him to. I reminded him that I paid for the cake, but he called me petty and nuts. He ranted and said that he didn't get to eat cake at his parents' house because a lot of kids were there and he didn't get enough cake, and what I did was 10 times worse. He's been upset with me ever since. So, am I wrong?
Am I the asshole for refusing to tell my husband the gender of our baby after he skipped going to the doctor's appointment with me? This is my husband and I's first baby and we're so excited. The thing is, he barely attends any doctor's appointments and his excuses aren't even valid. He's willing to miss the doctor's appointments over soccer or a drink or a game with his friends. His response is always, I'm not the one carrying the baby, so why do I have to go see the doctor? Last week was my final straw. He was supposed to come with me to the gender reveal appointment, but chose not to come because his friend invited him to fish and chips. I was pretty livid, but didn't make a fuss about it. Mom went with me instead. Woo! Am I the asshole for refusing to tell my husband the gender of our baby after he skipped going to the doctor's appointment with me? He texted asking me to tell him the results, but I refused to tell him. He kept on spam calling me, but I hung up each time. He came home fuming, demanding I tell him the results, but I refused. I bluntly said that since he refused to attend the appointment, then he gets no results till after the baby's born. He went off calling me spiteful and immature for doing this and punishing him. He said he's the father and has the right to know, and then called me dramatic since I wasn't alone and my mom was with me. He's been fuming about it and told his family, and now they're pressuring me to stop playing mind games and just tell him. Am I the asshole for borrowing my husband's underwear? I, 28 female, am about 7 to 8 months pregnant, and while I've thankfully not gained a lot of weight, my belly has grown a lot. Most of my underwear are too small and cut into my sides of my belly. So one day I was getting dressed and irritated about the rash I was getting, so I tried on my husband's boxers. They're size large and too big for me, but oh my gosh, it was the most comfortable thing I've ever tried. At the end of the day, we both came home and I told him I borrowed his underwear and asked if it was okay to continue borrowing. At least until the baby comes. He seemed weirded out but said it was okay, but fast forward to a few days ago and we're going to bed and he flips out. He asked me why I'm wearing his good bamboo underwear. Am I the asshole for borrowing my husband's underwear? He went on a long rant about how the bamboo underwear were his favorite and most comfortable and the best quality. I apologized and said I wouldn't wear those ones again, but he said I wasn't allowed to borrow anymore. He drew a hard line saying I should go buy bigger underwear for myself and stop stealing his. Now I'm thinking this is probably more about how he actually doesn't want me to borrow the underwear and he's just using this as an excuse. While I understand not wanting to share, I also think it's unnecessary to go buy large pairs that I'll only wear for 2 months. And he has 100 pairs. I also work full-time, buy groceries, cook and clean, and I think it's not a lot to ask.
I'm an asshole for wearing my engagement ring when I knew my stepsister was getting engaged. I got engaged at the beginning of December. For Christmas, I was staying with my mom and my stepdad, and they were hosting my stepdad's whole family for a New Year's party. Prior to this, my stepsister's fiance informed my parents that he was going to propose and asked if I would be okay to do it at the party. My parents obviously agreed. For the party, everyone was dressing up, obviously, and I was wearing my engagement ring like a normal person would. Everyone kind of already knew I was engaged, but this was the first time they'd see the ring in person, so a lot of people were interested in seeing it. I did notice her fiance being a bit cold with me, but I thought it was just nerves. The proposal happened, it was beautiful, and everyone congratulated her, but it was kind of 50-50 and people wanting to look at it and complimenting her ring and mine. And there are a lot of comparisons made. Everyone was very happy for her. The day after, my stepsister and her fiance blew up at me for wearing my ring to the party, saying I was trying to draw attention from her. And since I knew she was getting engaged beforehand, I shouldn't have done it. I don't really agree with it since I've been engaged for weeks and everyone knew. People are taking my side, they're also taking hers.
This girl was murdered with a piano leg. On September 20th, 2004, 22-year-old Rebecca Gold was brutally murdered at her boyfriend's house after she dropped him off at work. On this morning, a man knocked on the door and asked if he could use their house phone. Rebecca let him come inside, and as he pretended to use the phone, she went back into the bedroom to go to sleep. He then picked up a piano leg, went into Rebecca's bedroom, and began striking her multiple times. Rebecca's body was then wrapped in a blanket. She was put in his truck and dropped off on the road in Arkansas. Her body was then found 7 days later, but investigators had a hard time finding any suspects. Many years later, in 2019, investigators created a Facebook group called Unsolved Murder of Rebecca Gold, and a 44-year-old man named William Miller joined the group. William was very active, constantly posting theories, but investigators didn't think too much of this since this was very normal behavior from people in these groups. But then investigators realized that William was Rebecca's boyfriend's cousin. William was eventually taken into custody where he confessed to murdering Rebecca 16 years ago. William said that on September 2004, he knocked on his cousin's door knowing that Rebecca would let him in because they were related, and he murdered her. But there still is no motive. On November 2020, William was charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to 40 years in prison.
I'm at Asla for paying for my son's wedding, but not my other son's. My son is getting married to a wonderful woman. We have loved her since the day that we met her. She is very nice and polite and really good with my granddaughter. My granddaughter is 15 and she never got along with my son's partner. So it was nice to see an amazing relationship between her and her future stepmom. We were all talking and the wedding came up. We asked them what they were planning to do and they told us that they can't afford their dream wedding and their dream honeymoon, so they were trying to decide which one to choose. I offered that they could do both and I would pay half the price. My other son asked why I'm paying for their wedding when I didn't pay for his, and I told him I didn't like his wife and that he knows it. She's been cold towards us since the day that we first met her and she hardly ever speaks to us. I can't be expected to pay for a wedding I don't approve of, and he said I'm showing favoritism. I told him I'm not. I didn't pay for his brother's first wedding either, so in order to show favoritism, I'm willing to pay for his next wedding. He got super upset with me and called me an a-hole and just left.
Am I the asshole for refusing to use the word pregnant when I tell people that my wife is going to have a baby? So I know this is a weird hang-up, but I was raised by my grandparents and they never used the word pregnant because to them, it was almost like a dirty word. It was basically seen as vulgar. Everything was always, she's going to have a baby, or she's expecting. So over time, I developed an aversion to saying pregnant or pregnancy. I'm the same way with other words, but those are not an issue here. I guess my wife never noticed or didn't think much of it until we found out we were going to have a baby. One day she asked me about it and I explained the same thing I wrote above about how it wasn't something I grew up saying. It seemed to bother her a lot more than I would have thought, and it's created a bigger disagreement than I would have ever expected. Because of my explanation, she says that by me not using those words, it makes her think that I feel what she is doing is dirty or something shameful and to be hidden. She thinks I secretly judge her. Weird take. I obviously don't feel this way, and my hang-up has nothing to do with her or the baby. It's purely about comfort and certain language not being a part of my vocabulary. I really think she's making too much of this, and perhaps it's being used by her as a projection of her own insecurities. I don't think my language choices in this case makes me the asshole. She disagrees, and wants me to start using the right terms to describe what is happening. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole because my boyfriend's family wants a contract to protect him in this house? So I'm buying a house. I'm in closing now, waiting for the attorney's office. House and finance is solely in my name, bank won't allow otherwise. My boyfriend's family is all upset because his name can't be on the house. He has zero credit and couldn't be on it anyway, nor do I want him on it. They are trying to see if an attorney or something will contract something away from the bank, where if we break up, he'll get his money back that he puts into the house. My attorney already said they will not do that, so now they are wondering if an attorney not associated with the deal will do something. They can't do this, right? The house and deed and financing is solely in my name. He has nothing on it, but if he puts money into it, now I have to be held responsible for paying him back in the event of a breakup. He already said that he isn't moving into a house where his name isn't on it due to immense paranoia from his past relationships. So am I the asshole?